ultimate. And this is the whole idea. One has a choice, and that choice is between God and idolatry. That's always going to be the fundamental choice that we have. Whether we, and the idolatry I will define as basing your life, or centering your life around something in the creation, in the created order, rather than the Creator Himself. And all the things I just listed are things in the created order. But they were never meant to sustain you. They cannot carry the weight of your dignity as a person created in the Imago Dei, in the image of the living God. They cannot sustain you. You are bigger than those things. That's why the world, you'll never, or you never should be, fully at home in this world. In fact, my job here is to persuade myself and to seek if I can, or help you to think this through, that you've got to become more homesick. That if you become so secure in this world, the danger is you're not going to be really seeing that this is a soul-forming world, that you're here only for a season. You're like, your life, James said, is like a vapor, that you appear for a little while. And this life is meant for something bigger than that, and it's designed to prepare us. And God gives us, I think, fundamental longings. And if we go to the wrong things to get those longings satisfied, they'll always let us down. It's been said that the loneliest moment in your life is when you just experienced what promised to deliver the ultimate experience and it let you down. And it will let you down every time, one thing after another. This is why many men live from product to product. A lot of men live in light of the hope that the future will make up for their present lack. And they suppose that they have a particular product that they are seeking to achieve, some kind of an outcome. Whatever that thing is, an achievement of a particular goal, they suppose will then make up for any deficiency, and that then they will be happy. Of course, you know what will happen. First of all, most people never arrive at that particular fond goal, and those few who do discover it's not all it was cracked up to be. They discover, even as they're laying hold of it, that there's got to be something bigger, and they're already thinking about the next goal, about the next product. Thus, it's possible for a man to live from product to product and never be alive to the present moment. As Walker Percy put it, a man miss his life as a person can miss a plane. It's possible to be never there because you're always living in the future. We've talked about this before when we talk about process spirituality, but I'm just reminding you of something that I see very frequently, that the typical temptation we may have in our world and in our arena is to live from product to product, thus always living in the future. And then there's this bizarre moment that occurs when we begin to realize we're out of future. And then what happens is we do this weird switch, and we live in the past and go to Nostalgiaville. And suddenly we live in the past. Thus, even there, a person can live their whole life and never be alive to the only thing they ever had, which was the present tense, which was the now, the precious present. That's all you ever have, is the now. And thus, vis-a-vis contentment, we're going to talk about that beginning next week, gratitude and contentment, which I think really helps us move from fear to faith. If you're not content with what you have, you will not be content with what you want. You just have to see it that way. If you're not content with what you have, you will not be content with what you want, because that'll be a moving target indeed. So what I'm suggesting here then is that identities, when we build our identity based upon the unchanging character of God and His promises, based upon His love, then we have a self that can venture into and face the future, venture into the future and face anything, because we have Him as our center and as our power and as our resource, and He can give us, and He never will call us to a place that His grace cannot sustain us. That's a perspective that we can embrace in those times. Thus, an identity not based on God will inevitably lead to some form of addiction, because we turned good things into ultimate things. And as St. Augustine put it, our loves are not rightly ordered. And so our loves must be rightly ordered according to the movement or the theme of the purposes of God and the story in which we find ourselves. Let me see what questions or comments you might have on that. Yeah, Perry.
When you mentioned spouse or partner, did you mean business partner or someone from the opposite sex that you might happen to live with?
Yeah. Both. But most specifically a person. In that relationship, yeah, someone you're living with or whatever. A lot of people are doing that these days, so it's so again they can center their life around their partner or whatever their life partner is, or what they call their life partner at the particular time. Yeah, then it becomes another partner at another time. So yes, when that partner lets them down or they let them down, of course then they have to look for another one because yeah.
Stand up.
Are we hardwired that way? Is this a learned experience or is this our natural experience? I mean, a lot of psychologists talk about all these various experiences you have through each step of your life, your parent, your mother, then your father, and on. Is this something that has to be taught or brought to the person, or is this the natural state that they're supposed to be in a covenant relationship?
That's a good question. Is this a natural, are we hardwired for this? I think there is a dimension of nature and another dimension of nurture. And it's not to say it's one or the other. I think both heredity and environment play a role. And I believe, therefore, that nurture can at least help us process this and diminish the potential danger and power if we are brought up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord. But nevertheless, the other side of that coin is even with that environment, there'll still be a natural disposition to try to find meaning and autonomy on our own terms. We are hardwired for that. We are hardwired to try to gain control of our lives and the security that we suppose that will provide. And so we will, in our natural state, be bent inward. And the whole process is described by Paul as people who are at enmity with Christ, and that we are God's natural enemies in that regard. So that there is this disposition where we do not want to bow the knee to the authority and the claims of the living God. I think that's, so that it's a combination to me. And some forms of nurture can only reinforce that fleshly disposition. Other forms can at least give us a context or tools to deal with it. You see, so that's, but that would be the perspective I'd have. John.
Y'all see probably in the Gems of Kosher.
Stand up.
Most of these 8 things are mentioned that Ken just gave. And he says the ludicrousness is that of a sailor who will navigate by the waves or a pilot who will navigate by the clouds. And then he poses another question. He says if death is merely a door, why do we resist so vehemently about not having to go through it? And he says for one reason. He answers his own question. He says because we're not prepared and we don't have the proper mindset.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Much wisdom in Tozer, as you know. And I think he is effectively saying this, that, as you say, the analogy of a person who's navigating by the clouds which constantly move, or by the waves, really it's not a bad analogy because it's not a fixed point. Yes.
The question about the nature, the origin of this hardwiredness comes from...
Jack, these guys can't hear you. Could you stand up? And
I don't know that standing up helps, but you just talk louder.
They can't.
Yeah, I'll talk louder. The question is, does this nature that we're talking about in being hardwired come from the creation or a result or consequence of sin?
Jack's asking, does this nature that seems to be hardwired come from the creation or is it the result of sin?
Yes.
And again, I think a biblical theology teaches us that the created order is good. That it was good, 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 and then very good with the creation of man. But that things have gotten distorted. And God gives us many gifts, but men seek out their own devices, as one of the scriptures teach. Part of the somewhere in the scriptures teaches that we seek our own devices. So this bent nature then has become a product of the fall, such that we now try to find it inward. It's really a reflection and a repetition of the fall in Eden. Each of us, whenever we sin, really, it's like a mini fall. It's like a mini turning away. It's the my will, not thy will. So every day you